Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we are taking a sledgehammer to the myths surrounding women's strength training, and we're doing it using pure, hard data. For decades, the fitness industry has fed women these watered-down routines and half-truths about what their bodies are actually capable of. Well, we are stripping all of that away right now. Get ready, because the science we're diving into today is going to completely flip how you view your time in the gym, your body's absolute potential, and what lifting heavy really means for you.
Okay, let's just dive right into the deep end and address the absolute biggest psychological barrier keeping women away from the heavyweight section. It's the question that has basically dictated female fitness for generations. Will lifting heavy weights make me bulky? We have all been conditioned to believe that this is just some absolute biological fact, right? That simply touching a heavy barbell will instantly transform your physique into something massive. But what if the absolute latest physiological research completely shatters that assumption?
A major 2025 systematic review led by Ruffalo and colleagues looks straight at the hard data, and the truth is fascinating. While men might start with more absolute mass, meaning, their raw muscle size is just larger at baseline, the relative capacity for muscle growth is basically identical for both sexes. When you look at the percentage of growth from where they started, both men and women see an identical 10% relative increase. In fact, on average, men's muscle growth outpaced women's by a completely negligible 0.69%. So the cellular potential for muscle growth, it's not locked to your sex at all.
So here is a crucial point to understand. You start lifting and boom, a week later the scale is up 2 pounds. Panic sets in, right? But those early scale jumps are actually just your body storing water and glycogen to repair lean tissue. You aren't suddenly turning into the Hulk. This is a huge reason that bulky myth just refuses to die. Seeing the scale go up a pound or two in those first few weeks is actually a super positive physiological response. Your body is simply hydrating and fueling the muscle tissue as it repairs. Those extreme bodybuilder physiques we often picture, those are the result of extreme targeted effort and very specific hormonal advantages, not just a standard heavy strength routine.
Section 1. The Science of Female Muscle.
To actually build strength effectively, we need to talk about Hinnemann's size principle. Your muscles are made up of different types of fibers. The ones with the highest potential for growth and explosive strength, your fast-twitch fibers, they're actually super lazy. Seriously, they do not want to work unless they absolutely have to. This principle proves that these high-potential fibers only wake up and get to work under severe fatigue or when a really heavy load demands it. And here is where female biology is just incredibly unique. Women actually have a biological superpower. You naturally have a much higher proportion of highly fatigue-resistant type 1 endurance fibers, along with way better muscle perfusion than men. This makes women unbelievably resilient at submaximal loads. But it's kind of a double-edged sword. Because you resist fatigue so incredibly well, it means you actually have to push way closer to your absolute physical limits than men do in order to finally recruit those lazy type 2 growth fibers. So you literally cannot just stop a set when it starts to feel a little burn. You basically have two paths. You either need to lift lighter weights to total, absolute muscular failure to exhaust those endurance fibers, or you lift heavy enough to force those growth fibers to work immediately. If you're lifting under 50% of your 1-rep max, you have to push until you physically cannot do another rep. But if you train heavy, like over 80% of your max, the intensity is so high that it forces type 2 fiber recruitment right from rep 1, meaning you don't actually need to train all the way to failure to get the benefits.
Section 2. Syncing with your cycle.
Let's see how this cellular science builds into an even greater biological advantage. If you treat your menstrual cycle as a performance timeline, you can actually periodize your heaviest workouts during your highest energy windows. Just look at how your hormones naturally fluctuate. You've got this rising tide of energy in the early follicular phase, a massive estrogen surge leading up to ovulation, and then progesterone takes over in the luteal phase. These aren't just background changes, folks. They directly dictate your strength and your recovery capabilities.
The studies show that stacking your heavy sessions during your anabolic, high estrogen follicular phase yields significantly greater strength gains than if you just ignored your cycle completely. Estrogen is highly anabolic. It is literally your superpower window for peak force output and muscle repair. But when progesterone takes over in the luteal phase, your body becomes more catabolic. You're going to experience higher fatigue, and you'll require way more recovery time.
There's a quote from a clinical study I absolutely love. "It just feels heavy and boring just before my period. I really want to validate this experience." That drop in motivation and strength during your luteal phase is a documented, very real physiological response.
It is not a lack of willpower. Your neurotransmitters and hormones are actively altering your force output capabilities. When the barbell feels like it's glued to the floor right before your period, that's just your body telling you to focus on recovery, not to push harder.
Section 3. The Training Blueprint.
So, how do we take everything from fiber recruitment to hormonal cycling and build a routine that actually works? Well, the landmark 2019 Hagstrom Systematic Review proved that frequency and volume are the ultimate drivers of female strength. This was the first major synthesis of literature specifically examining female adaptations to resistance training, and they found that manipulating how often you train and how many total sets you do plays a massive role in your progress.
That review found an absolutely incredible average strength increase of 25% following roughly 15 weeks of structured resistance training. Just imagine that for a second, increasing your dynamic strength by a quarter in just under 4 months. That translates to real-world, functional power that makes literally every aspect of daily life easier.
And right alongside that amazing strength jump, they tracked an average gain of 1.45 kilograms, or just over 3 pounds, of lean, functional muscle mass. And remember what we talked about earlier? This isn't bulky mass. This is dense, highly metabolically active tissue that completely reshapes your body composition and physical capability.
So the new rules of lifting? They mean dropping those tiny isolation exercises and focusing on compound multi-muscle movements. Experts emphasize that you really don't need to waste time on single-joint moves like little tricep kickbacks. Your time is way better spent on heavy deadlifts, squats, and chest presses. The science points to a clear sweet spot, training 2 to 4 days a week and hitting 3 to 4 sets per exercise to accrue the necessary volume for maximum female adaptation.
Section 4. Beyond the Muscle.
Let's pan out for a second, because heavy lifting provides benefits that go way, way beyond just physical aesthetics or getting stronger. As women age, and especially as estrogen drops during the menopausal transition, heavy lifting triggers this process called mechanotransduction. It's a clinical necessity to build bone mineral density and fight osteoporosis. Light walking or basic aerobics, they are simply insufficient to stop bone loss. But the intense mechanical tension of heavy lifting literally commands your body's bone-building cells to lay down new, stronger bone matrix. It's incredible.
From dramatically boosting your basal metabolic rate around the clock to protecting your knees, resistance training is absolutely your ultimate functional longevity tool. Because of the wider female Q angle, the angle from your hips down to your knees, women are highly susceptible to ACL tears. Heavy lifting actively fortifies those crucial stabilizing ligaments. Plus, your active muscle functions like its own endocrine organ, releasing healthy myokines that improve insulin sensitivity and keep your blood lipids in check.
Fitness expert Lou Schuler really put the final nail in the coffin for this myth when he said that unless you are an extreme genetic anomaly, you simply do not need to worry about bulking up. The leading experts all agree. Getting massive requires extreme hormonal advantages and highly targeted effort, not just a solid lifting routine. When you lift, you are building resilience, you're building armor, and you're building longevity.
So, armed with the actual science of your own physiology, understanding your incredible endurance superpower, the natural rhythm of your hormonal cycles, and the absolute necessity of heavy loads, the only question left is this: are you going to keep lifting by rules meant for someone else's biology, or are you ready to finally pick up the heavy weights and claim your true strength? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep lifting, and I'll see you next time.